Maya Torres stepped off the transport helicopter, the salty wind from the Pacific whipping against her face. She adjusted her gear, her boots crunching on the gravel of Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. The morning sun glinted off the water, a harsh reminder that beauty and danger could exist side by side. Her heart pounded, but not from fear. It was anticipation, the same thrill that had accompanied her through years of military service, deployments, and missions in far-off lands. Her presence immediately drew stares. Dozens of SEALs lined the training ground, their eyes sharp, calculating. Not all of them openly hostile, but their skepticism was palpable. For most, women were a curiosity in this elite brotherhood, an exception, a test, or worse, a liability. Chief Petty Officer Ryan Briggs, a towering figure with scars that told stories no one wanted to ask about, leaned against a fence post and smirked. "Well, well," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Look who thinks she can survive SEAL training." Maya didn't flinch. She had heard this before, whispers, taunts, offhand comments. Women in the field often faced doubt, but Maya had never let it deter her. She knew what she could do. She had to, because proving herself wasn't a matter of pride. It was a matter of survival. "I'm here to train," she said evenly, her voice calm but firm. "I suggest you keep that in mind." Briggs laughed, a deep, rough sound. "We'll see how long that lasts." Maya ignored him. She stepped forward, scanning the training yard. The obstacle courses loomed, rope climbs, wall scaling, cargo nets, and mud trenches that tested endurance, strength, and nerve. She'd trained for years, but SEAL training wasn't just physical. It was mental, emotional, a test of resilience against pain, doubt, and fear. Her first run was against the clock. The men were faster, stronger, at least at first glance. But Maya moved with precision, her body calculating each step, conserving energy, pushing herself where others rushed recklessly. She climbed the walls with agility, swung across rope nets, and dove into muddy trenches without hesitation. Sweat and grit coated her face, yet she pressed on, ignoring the mocking cheers and jeers from the sidelines. "Come on, Torres," one shouted. "You'll be crawling to medics by lunchtime." Maya gritted her teeth. She had been underestimated before, and always used it as fuel. She finished the run with a burst of speed, sliding through the final obstacle into a cloud of mud and dust. The timer beeped. She had beaten expectations, if not all the men's times. Later, in the barracks, she unpacked her gear, methodical and precise. Each weapon polished, each strap adjusted. She was meticulous because preparation saved lives, and in her experience, improvisation was a last resort. Across the room, Briggs lounged, arms crossed, smirking. "You know, I'm not trying to be mean," he said. "But you don't belong here." "I don't belong?" Maya asked, raising an eyebrow, her voice calm but pointed. "I've been on missions where survival wasn't a suggestion, it was a requirement. So tell me again why I don't belong?" Briggs scoffed. "It's not about your courage. It's just never been done." Maya smiled faintly. Then maybe it's time it was. Training that afternoon was brutal. The instructors pushed the team through endurance drills, long swims, obstacle navigation, and precision shooting. Maya kept pace with the best of them. Each push-up, each pull-up, each timed swim lap tested not only her muscles, but her mind. She could hear the whispers. "She's trying too hard. She won't last. Look at her struggling." But they didn't see the quiet fire inside her, the relentless determination. Failure wasn't an option, not for her, not with the lives that could depend on her someday. During marksmanship drills, Maya's focus was laser-sharp. She ignored the casual comments of the men around her, blocked out the doubts, and concentrated on the target. Each shot struck the bullseye with uncanny accuracy. Some of the men looked impressed, but no one said it aloud. They didn't have to. Her results spoke louder than their words ever could. Later that evening, the team gathered for a debrief. The instructors went over performance metrics, noting strengths and weaknesses. When they called out her name, Maya stood tall. Torres, the instructor said, outperformed expectations in both agility and marksmanship. Keep it up. A few heads turned. Murmurs spread across the room. Some of the men stared at her with a new kind of attention, not derision, but cautious respect. Briggs, however, remained silent, his smirk unchanged, but his eyes narrowing. In private, Maya reflected on the day. She knew the real battle wasn't just physical. It was proving her worth in a world that doubted her because of her gender. Every taunt, every skeptical glance, every whispered doubt was a challenge. And she would meet each one head-on, with skill, patience, and relentless determination. Night fell, and the base quieted. Maya lay in her bunk, reviewing maps, mission reports, and tactical manuals. She wasn't just training her body. She was training her mind. She memorized every move, every enemy pattern she could anticipate, every weakness she might exploit. Preparation, she knew, was power. As sleep finally claimed her, Maya thought of the weeks ahead, missions, live fire exercises, and survival tests that would push every recruit to their limits. She welcomed it. Doubt, ridicule, fear, they were all part of the crucible that forged warriors. And Maya Torres was ready to be forged into something more than anyone expected. Somewhere deep down, she knew the true test would come not in drills or obstacles, but in the chaos of real combat, when survival, skill, and courage were the only things that mattered. And when that time came, she would not just survive. She would excel. She would silence every doubter. She would prove that courage and determination had nothing to do with gender and everything to do with heart. And with that thought, Maya Torres drifted into a restless, purposeful sleep, ready for the trials ahead, unaware that soon she would face a moment that would define her life, challenge her limits, and transform her into a legend. The hum of the helicopter rotor filled the cabin as Maya Torres sat strapped into the transport, the landscape of northern Syria stretching beneath her like a jagged chessboard. The sun had barely risen, painting the desert in shades of orange and brown. She scanned the terrain below, her eyes tracing ridges, valleys, and abandoned structures that could hide enemies. Every detail mattered. Every rock could conceal danger. Beside her, Briggs tightened his harness and cast her a sidelong glance. "Don't get in the way," he muttered, more a warning than advice. Maya ignored him, her focus on the mission ahead. The target was codenamed the Viper, a notorious insurgent leader responsible for countless attacks against U.S. forces. Intelligence suggested he was holed up in a fortified compound near the mountains, surrounded by loyal fighters who had no qualms about taking a life. The SEAL team's task was surgical: infiltrate, neutralize, and extract. But even with careful planning, the operation was risky, heavily armed, unpredictable enemies, and terrain that gave the defenders the advantage. Maya's role officially was that of medic and sniper support, positioned slightly behind the lead assault team. But she had memorized the layout of the compound, the surrounding hills, and the patrol routes. Every weak point, every blind spot, she had it catalogued in her mind. The men laughed at the medic, with field experience far beyond her years. None of them suspected that Maya's strategic mind might outmatch their brute force approach. "All right, team," said Lieutenant Commander Hayes, their leader, his voice calm but commanding. Eyes sharp. "We move fast, we move smart. Remember, lives depend on every decision we make." The team descended into the valley under the cloak of early morning shadows, boots crunching over rocky soil. Maya moved carefully, staying just behind the lead group. She scanned constantly, noting the faint footprints of enemy patrols, the glint of weapons hidden in the scrub, and subtle signs of traps laid along the route. Every muscle was coiled, ready for sudden action. Briggs whispered behind her, "Stick close, rookie. Don't get yourself killed." Maya didn't respond. She had heard the doubts before, and her silence was sharper than any retort. Words wouldn't prove her worth. Actions would. They had barely crossed half the valley when the first warning signs appeared. A sudden gust of wind carried a faint metallic clang, almost imperceptible. Maya froze. Her instincts screamed that the sound wasn't random. She crouched low, motioning subtly to Hayes, who acknowledged with a quick nod. Seconds later, a hail of bullets erupted from the cliff edges above. The SEALs were ambushed. Men dove for cover, some yelling, others firing blindly toward the shadows where the attackers had disappeared. The roar of automatic weapons echoed through the valley, punctuated by explosions. Dust and debris filled the air, blinding, choking, suffocating. Maya's training kicked in immediately. She dropped to the ground, dragging a wounded SEAL behind a boulder. "Medic," she called, her voice calm and precise amid chaos. Kneeling, she checked the man's pulse, stopping a heavy bleed with practiced efficiency while returning fire with her sidearm. Her movements were fluid, almost surgical, the calm center of a storm. Briggs, pinned behind a ridge, shouted orders that made little sense. "Fall back. Fall back." But there was no clear path. Every move had to be calculated, or they would be slaughtered. Maya assessed the situation, noting the enemy's firing patterns, the ridges providing cover, and the narrow gaps that could be used to flank them. She stabilized two other injured men, applying tourniquets and calming their panic. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "You'll make it. Follow my lead. Move when I tell you." They nodded, trusting her instinctively, even if they hadn't respected her before. The team had no radio contact. The ambush had destroyed their comms. Reinforcements were hours away. Survival depended entirely on quick thinking, tactical knowledge, and courage, qualities Maya had in abundance. She moved along the line, coordinating defensive positions, signaling with hand gestures, and guiding the men toward better cover. "Medics aren't supposed to do this," muttered Briggs, his voice edged with disbelief. "They're supposed to stay out of combat." Maya didn't answer. She let the action speak for itself. She crawled across open ground under fire, dragging another wounded man into a shallow depression. Every step was a calculated risk, every movement a life-or-death decision. She used debris and terrain to shield herself, returning precise shots at anyone who threatened the team. Minutes felt like hours. Bullets tore through rock and soil, and explosions shook the valley. But Maya's focus never wavered. She marked enemy positions, calculated angles for defensive fire, and anticipated movements with uncanny accuracy. She had fought in chaos before, but this, the scale, the intensity, the responsibility, tested every skill she had acquired over years of combat experience. As the sun climbed, the ambush began to thin. Some attackers fell back. Others pressed forward, desperate to overwhelm the SEALs. Maya realized the team needed to reach higher ground to secure visibility and call for backup. It was a risk. She volunteered to move alone. "I'll do it," she said firmly, catching the eye of Hayes. "I can reach the ridge. From there, we can coordinate." The men hesitated. Even Hayes knew the odds were terrifying. But there was no one else. Maya was their best chance. Crouching low, she moved through the chaos, every sense alert. The wind, the rocks, the enemy, every detail mattered. She fired only when necessary, taking precise shots that eliminated threats without wasting ammo. Improvised traps and natural cover slowed the pursuing enemies. She was a shadow, a force moving with deadly precision. By the time she reached the high point, the team below had stabilized enough to follow her lead. Maya used the ridge to signal positions, identify threats, and plan a tactical withdrawal to safer ground. Her mind worked faster than anyone else's, calculating angles, probabilities, and enemy reactions. Every decision kept lives alive. Briggs finally approached, his face pale, eyes wide with reluctant admiration. "I didn't think anyone could do what you just did," he admitted. Maya simply shook her head, focusing on the valley below. "This isn't about me," she said. "It's about keeping all of you alive." The first wave of the mission had been a wake-up call. The SEALs began to realize that Maya Torres was not just a medic, not just a woman in their ranks. She was a warrior whose mind, courage, and skill were unmatched. And the worst was yet to come. This mission would push them further than any had gone before. Lives would hang in the balance, and the difference between survival and death would depend on one thing: Maya Torres' ability to think, act, and fight when others could only panic. As she scanned the valley from the ridge, the sun casting long shadows, she silently promised herself, "I will prove them wrong. I will survive. I will make them respect what I can do, not because I am a woman, but because I am a SEAL." The valley was deceptively quiet as the SEAL team advanced. The morning sun glinted off the rocky terrain, but the calm was a cruel illusion. Maya Torres moved at the rear, scanning every shadow, every ridge, every slight movement in the scrub. She had memorized the route, calculated likely ambush points, and even noted the weak spots in enemy lines. Yet nothing could have prepared them for the precision of the attack. A sudden explosion shattered the stillness. The ground trembled beneath their feet as a cloud of dust and debris erupted from the canyon walls. Bullets tore through the rocks, tearing into the earth and splintering wood where the team had left gear. The SEALs scattered, diving for cover behind boulders and trenches, shouting warnings and commands. Maya's instincts kicked in instantly. She dropped low, her heart hammering, but her hands steady. She pulled Corporal Jenkins behind a large boulder, quickly assessing his injuries. Blood was pooling on his uniform from a leg wound. Maya ripped off her scarf, applying pressure, checking for arterial damage, and keeping one eye on the enemy. Medics aren't supposed to do this. Briggs shouted from across the field, pinned behind a rocky outcrop. Maya didn't respond. She had trained for this, anticipated it, and now was her moment to act. The firefight erupted into chaos. The SEALs were outnumbered, the enemy attacking with coordinated precision. Maya moved with a mixture of speed and stealth, dragging another wounded soldier to relative safety. Every shot she fired was calculated. Every movement accounted for terrain and angles. Her calm amidst chaos was unnerving, even to seasoned SEALs. Above her, insurgents perched on ridges rained bullets down. Maya identified their positions, noting their patrol patterns, and returned fire only when necessary, conserving ammunition while maximizing impact. She used the natural contours of the rocks as cover, sliding from boulder to boulder, neutralizing threats without drawing too much attention. Meanwhile, Chief Petty Officer Briggs barked orders that were increasingly frantic. Fall back. Take cover. But the team had no coordinated plan. Panic was spreading. Maya, keeping her focus, signaled hand gestures to direct movements. "Two left. Move behind the ridge. Follow me," she commanded, her voice clear, calm, and unwavering. The wounded were her priority. She stabilized Private Collins, who had been hit in the shoulder, instructing him on controlled breathing and keeping his focus while she applied a makeshift tourniquet. Every second counted. Every mistake could be fatal. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, trying to regain control, shouted for suppression fire to clear the ambush. The enemy, however, was relentless, skilled, and prepared. Explosions shook the canyon walls, sending rocks tumbling into the team. Smoke and dust choked vision and air. In this chaos, Maya's composure became the team's anchor. She moved forward, scanning for strategic points. A small ridge offered a vantage position over enemy movements. With 2 wounded soldiers in tow, she advanced silently, using the terrain to shield their movement. Her tactical mind anticipated the enemy's reaction before they even fired, allowing her to neutralize threats one by one. Hours felt like minutes. Bullets whipped past, men shouted in fear, and explosions tore through the valley. Maya's movements were deliberate, precise, almost surgical. She crawled into positions, set up suppressive fire, and even improvised small decoys to confuse the attackers. Each action was a calculated risk, each step a chance to survive and save lives. Briggs, watching her from cover, began to comprehend what he had underestimated. The woman he had mocked, the rookie he had doubted, was now the team's center of strategy, the pivot around which survival turned. She's incredible, he muttered, eyes wide with shock. Maya's mind raced, not with fear, but with calculations. Every SEAL's position, every wounded comrade, every enemy location, she cataloged them all. She knew that movement was dangerous, that hesitation could cost lives. Acting decisively, she coordinated suppressive fire, medic interventions, and defensive positioning with remarkable precision. As the sun climbed higher, the SEALs began to stabilize. Casualties were under control, positions were secured, and Maya had guided the team to temporary safety behind a rocky outcrop. The ambush had inflicted damage, but it hadn't defeated them. The SEALs, breathing heavily, covered in dust and blood, began to recognize her leadership. "You've saved at least half our lives today," Hayes said quietly, almost in disbelief. Maya simply shook her head. "We all survive, or none of us do," she replied, checking another injured man's vitals. The team regrouped, bruised and battered. Maya assessed their situation. Comms were down. Ammunition was limited. Enemy reinforcements could arrive at any moment. There was only one choice. They needed higher ground to call for support and coordinate extraction. The only person who could reach it alone and survive was her. "I'll go," she said, voice calm and decisive. The SEALs looked at her, astonished. "Alone?" Hayes asked. "Yes," she replied. "I can make it. From there, we can coordinate and get everyone out safely." Briggs opened his mouth, but no words came. No one argued further. It was true. Maya was the only one with the skill, knowledge, and nerves of steel to attempt it. Crouched low, she moved through the canyon, bullets whipping past. Dust and smoke clung to her skin and gear. Each movement was deliberate. Slide, dive, roll, fire. Improvised traps slowed pursuing insurgents. She neutralized threats silently when possible, using shadows and terrain to her advantage. By the time she reached the ridge, exhaustion had set in, but she remained alert, scanning enemy positions and terrain. The vantage point gave her a clear view of the valley, the ambush, and her team below. From this height, she could finally coordinate movements, direct fire, and call for support. Briggs approached cautiously, awe in his eyes. I didn't know you had it in you," he admitted, his pride bruised but respect evident. Maya didn't respond with words. She pointed to the valley below, signaling positions, identifying threats, and directing the remaining team. Every decision, every instruction, could mean life or death. She had turned from the medic into the backbone of the team, a leader forged in the crucible of chaos. The ambush had tested her in every way, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Yet, in that moment, Maya Torres realized that she had not only survived, she had excelled. She had proven, to herself and to everyone else, that skill, courage, and determination mattered more than gender, doubt, or mockery. And as the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the canyon, she prepared for the next phase of the mission, a moment when her training, instincts, and bravery would be pushed further than ever before. A moment that would test her alone against overwhelming odds. The canyon was a maelstrom of dust, smoke, and shouts. Bullets ricocheted off rocks, and the stench of gunpowder clung to the air. The SEAL team, battered and shaken, had managed to find temporary cover behind jagged boulders, but the ambush had already claimed lives. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, their calm and capable leader, had taken a direct hit while providing cover for the wounded. He slumped against a boulder, his uniform soaked in blood, eyes fading. "No, no," muttered Briggs, his usual bravado shattered. The weight of command had fallen suddenly onto trembling shoulders. Panic rippled through the team as they realized Hayes was incapacitated. Maya crouched beside him, checking his vitals. "He's losing too much blood," she said quietly. "We need to move him now." Briggs waved his hands, disoriented. "What do we do?" I don't know. We need orders." Maya's gaze swept the chaotic battlefield. Men shouted across the canyon, some firing wildly, others frozen with indecision. Explosions continued to rock the valley. She could feel the responsibility pressing down on her chest, like the heavy gear on her back. "Listen," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We move as a unit. We stabilize the wounded and reach higher ground. That's the only way we survive. Follow my lead." The men froze. This was Maya Torres, the one they had mocked, the rookie who supposedly couldn't survive the SEAL program. And now she was telling them what to do, and the truth was clear. She was the only one who could. Briggs swallowed hard, his face pale. All right. We follow your lead," he said, his voice tinged with reluctant respect. Maya assessed their situation. 3 men were critically injured, including Hayes. Ammunition was running low. Enemy forces were flanking from the east, and the valley's narrow exits offered little room for maneuver. Every choice was a risk. Every delay could be fatal. She moved quickly, her mind mapping out angles, cover points, and the safest path to the ridge above. "Collins, Jenkins, you two with me. Everyone else, cover our movement. Lay suppressive fire, and don't waste a shot." The SEALs obeyed, realizing instinctively that her plan was their only chance. Maya helped the wounded up, supporting Hayes' heavy form, while signaling the others to move in a coordinated shuffle through the canyon. The enemy's fire followed, bullets tearing into rocks and kicking up dust around them. But Maya's careful guidance minimized exposure. They reached a small outcrop that offered partial cover. Maya crouched, quickly checking the wounded and redistributing ammo. Her actions were precise and deliberate, a blend of field medic, strategist, and warrior. Every move saved lives. "Briggs," she said quietly, "cover that eastern flank. Jenkins, suppressive fire on the ridge. Collins, stay low and watch our 6. We move on my mark." Briggs hesitated, then nodded. For the first time, he realized that this woman, this so-called rookie, was not just keeping up. She was leading. Maya took a deep breath and scanned the terrain. She noticed patterns in enemy movement, subtle signs others missed. Footprints, disturbed rocks, even the faint glint of metal in the sun revealed their positions. Using this knowledge, she guided the team in a careful advance through broken terrain, dodging sniper lines and improvised traps. Halfway to the ridge, an explosion tore through the canyon floor. Maya was thrown to her knees, dust filling her lungs. Shouts erupted as men scrambled for cover. She coughed, wiped her face, and immediately assessed the threat. One insurgent had planted a charge near a narrow choke point. "Move left, now!" she shouted, grabbing Jenkins and dragging him out of the blast radius. Another explosion erupted, but the team had survived. Each action had been a calculated dance with death, orchestrated by Maya's calm and precise mind. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity. The team pressed forward, and Maya coordinated movements with surgical precision. She distributed the remaining ammunition, administered first aid where necessary, and constantly scanned for ambushes. She became a pivot around which the remaining SEALs operated, their anchor in a storm of chaos. At one point, Briggs turned to her, voice trembling. I don't know how you're doing this. I've never seen anyone. I mean, it's incredible." Maya shook her head without stopping. "It's not about me. It's about keeping us alive. Every second counts. Focus, follow my lead, and we survive." Their progress was slow, but steady. Maya's presence transformed panic into purpose. The team had survived the first wave of the ambush, largely due to her quick thinking and tactical coordination. Even in exhaustion, fear, and pain, she remained a calm force in the storm. By mid-afternoon, they reached a small plateau that provided a tactical vantage point. Maya scanned the valley below and the ridges above. Enemy forces were regrouping, preparing for a second assault. The team needed to hold their position and coordinate with extraction forces, but communication equipment had been damaged during the initial ambush. "I can reach the higher ridge," Maya said, her voice low but firm. "From there, I can get radio contact. It's the only way to call for backup." The men looked at her, faces a mixture of awe and fear. To venture out alone into open terrain, with 12 or more enemy fighters likely observing every movement, it was nearly suicidal. "You'll make it?" Briggs asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "I will," Maya said simply. "But we all survive if we follow the plan." She adjusted her gear, checking ammunition and medical supplies. Every shot, every step, every decision could determine life or death. Slowly, deliberately, she slipped from the plateau, moving low through broken terrain, blending with the shadows, the dust, and the chaos. The SEALs below watched, realizing fully that the woman they had mocked, the one they underestimated, had become the team's linchpin. Her courage and strategic mind had turned the tide of the battle. What had started as an ambush that threatened to annihilate them had become a story of survival, all hinging on Maya's resolve. Briggs whispered to himself, almost reverently, "She's the real deal? We've been blind." Maya pressed on, moving through narrow gullies, under sniper fire, and past improvised explosives. Each movement was calculated, silent, and deadly when necessary. Her training as a medic gave her insight into physiology, pain thresholds, and stamina, knowledge she now used to anticipate enemy actions and keep herself and her team alive. Finally, as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Maya reached the higher ridge. From this vantage, she had clear sight of the valley, the enemy positions, and the scattered SEAL team below. Carefully, she set up a temporary observation post, taking note of every enemy position, every weak point. "Hold your position," she called down to the team. "I can see the enemy. Follow my signals, and we'll get everyone out safely." In that moment, Maya Torres wasn't just a medic, or even a SEAL recruit. She was a leader forged in the crucible of chaos. Her calm, precise, and fearless action had transformed a near disaster into a fight they could win. The team, battered and bloodied, began to stabilize, moving in concert under her guidance. The ambush had been a brutal test, one that revealed true courage, skill, and leadership. Maya Torres had passed with flying colors, proving not only her worth, but also that respect and trust were earned through action, not words. And yet, the mission was far from over. Higher stakes awaited, testing her resolve even further. As the first shadows of evening stretched across the valley, Maya prepared for the next phase. Alone on the ridge, with enemy forces regrouping below, she knew that the coming hours would demand more courage, skill, and endurance than she had ever called upon before. The survival of her team and the success of the mission depended on her. And Maya Torres was ready. The ridge was silent except for the distant echo of gunfire and the wind rustling across jagged rocks. Maya Torres crouched low, surveying the valley below. The SEAL team was scattered behind cover, their breathing heavy, their movements cautious. From this vantage point, she could see the enemy regrouping, preparing for another assault. But her focus was on the path ahead, the next ridge where a makeshift communication point could connect them to command and air support. She was alone, outnumbered, and every step forward could be her last. Her mind raced, not with fear, but with precise calculations. Foot placement, bullet trajectories, potential ambush points, and cover positions. Every factor had to be accounted for. Maya adjusted her M4, checked her remaining ammo, and ensured her medical kit was secure. The weight of the gear pressed into her shoulders, but she welcomed it. It reminded her of the responsibility she bore for the lives below. Slowly, she began her descent along a narrow, rocky path. Her movements were deliberate, silent, blending seamlessly with shadows. Every sound she made was measured. A pebble kicked into a crevice. A rock shifted slightly beneath her boots, minor disturbances that could spell disaster if not controlled. She pressed her face to the ground, scanning for movement, noting glints of metal from rifles, the slight shimmer of desert dust stirred by approaching patrols. The enemy had clearly spotted signs of their previous firefight, but they didn't anticipate her path. Maya used their expectations against them. She crawled through a dry creek bed, using the natural trench as cover, and paused behind an outcropping to observe. 12 enemy combatants patrolled the area, a deadly mix of skilled marksmen and relentless foot soldiers. All of them were unaware of her exact location. She began neutralizing threats silently. A precise shot to the first patrolman, the sound muffled by a suppressor, sent him crumpling behind a rock. 2 more were taken down as she flanked the ridge, her body moving like a shadow, her every step planned to minimize exposure. She was alone, yet she moved with a calm authority that belied the danger surrounding her. Improvised traps were her next tool. Maya used rocks and debris to create false movement and tripwires, leading the enemy into positions where she could eliminate them with minimal risk. She was surgical, every action calculated, every shot deliberate. The combination of her medical knowledge, field experience, and tactical training allowed her to anticipate both human behavior and physiological limits. She knew how long a man could hold a position, how fatigue affected aim, how fear altered movement. Hours seemed to pass as she methodically cleared the path. She paused only to assess injuries she had inflicted, ensuring the bodies were out of direct view, preventing the enemy from realizing the pattern of their losses. Each patrol was neutralized without raising alarm, a ghost moving through the chaos. Meanwhile, her mind was also focused on the bigger picture. She knew the SEAL team below depended on her to secure the communication line. One mistake could leave them stranded, cut off from reinforcements. She had no choice but to be perfect. An enemy patrol stumbled upon a small ridge she had cleared moments earlier. Maya froze, calculating the quickest and safest response. In one fluid motion, she used a combination of suppressive fire and diversionary noise. A rock tossed into the canyon far below to mislead them. The patrol split, confusion taking over. Maya picked them off one by one with precise shots. Her physical endurance was pushed to the limit. She crawled over rocks, scaled small ledges, and kept low under fire. Sweat and blood mingled on her skin, but exhaustion never slowed her. She had faced long nights in combat before, but this was unlike anything she had done, utterly alone, relying entirely on her wits, skill, and nerves. At one point, she paused to breathe, her chest heaving, her eyes scanning the enemy movements below. She saw the small glimmer of fear in their coordination. They were professionals, but they had underestimated her. Every movement she made had forced them to react defensively. She allowed herself a brief, almost imperceptible smile. Continuing, she finally reached the higher ridge where a satellite relay had been spotted in reconnaissance maps. From this vantage, she had a full view of the valley, the scattered SEAL team below, and the enemy forces positioning for another assault. Maya immediately set up the communication device, connecting to command. Her hands moved quickly, adjusting frequencies, sending encrypted signals, all while remaining alert to threats. The enemy began realizing the trail of fallen soldiers was no accident. They regrouped and started moving toward her position. 12 men, armed and aggressive, were closing in. Maya's pulse quickened, but her mind remained steady. She was outnumbered, yes, but she had the advantage of terrain, preparation, and strategic foresight. She used the ridge's natural cover to funnel the attackers into kill zones she had pre-calculated. Rocks and debris were arranged to serve as barricades, traps, and obstacles, slowing their advance. Sniping positions gave her clear lines of sight while minimizing exposure. The first man fell to a precise headshot, the others reacting with confusion and alarm. One by one, she continued the pattern. The enemy's momentum was broken. They moved cautiously, expecting ambushes, unsure of where she would strike next. Maya stayed patient, observing, calculating, acting only when necessary. Her actions were lethal, but efficient, designed to neutralize threats without wasting precious ammunition. Time stretched as the engagement continued. Exhaustion gnawed at her muscles, but adrenaline and focus kept her moving. By the time air support finally arrived, alerted through the secured communications line, Maya had eliminated 12 enemy combatants, cleared the path, and ensured the SEAL team could retreat to safer ground. When the helicopter appeared above, Maya descended from the ridge, every step controlled despite her fatigue. She returned to the SEAL team, who were exhausted, battered, and amazed. Briggs, face pale, whispered, I can't believe it. You did all this alone?" Maya allowed herself a brief nod. "We survived. That's what matters." In that moment, the men who had mocked her, doubted her, and underestimated her finally understood the truth. Maya Torres was not just a medic or a SEAL recruit. She was a force, precise, fearless, and unstoppable. She had turned a nearly catastrophic ambush into a triumph, alone against overwhelming odds. As the team regrouped, she administered first aid to the wounded, coordinated evacuation, and ensured every man was accounted for. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her, but there was no room for relief yet. The mission wasn't over until every soldier was safe. Later, when the debriefing occurred, Briggs remained silent. His usual sarcasm and mocking tone had vanished. For the first time, respect replaced doubt. The SEALs who had ridiculed her now looked at Maya with awe. She had achieved the impossible, not through brute force, but through skill, intelligence, and sheer determination. Maya Torres had proven that courage, precision, and resilience were not defined by gender or expectation. Alone in the shadow of overwhelming danger, she had made the difference between survival and death. And in that moment, the legend of Maya Torres truly began. The first light of dawn seeped through the jagged ridges of the northern Syrian mountains, painting the valley below in pale gold. Maya Torres crouched low, her body pressed against a rocky outcrop. The night had been long, her vigil unbroken. 12 enemy combatants moved cautiously through the terrain below, unaware that she had already catalogued every patrol route, every likely cover point, and every potential blind spot. Her breath was steady, each inhale and exhale controlled. Maya's hands rested lightly on her M4, her fingers itching for the first precise strike. She had survived so far by using shadows, terrain, and improvisation, but this would be a direct confrontation. No room for stealth alone. She would face them head-on, using strategy and skill to eliminate the threat without giving them any chance to respond effectively. The insurgents, armed and confident after regrouping overnight, spread out across a flat section near the canyon's base. Their chatter was casual, but Maya listened intently, picking up subtle cues, the tension in their voices, the slight hesitation in movement, the rhythm of their steps. Every detail was a potential advantage. Maya set small improvised traps in the enemy's path. A strategically placed rock to trip one, a subtle disturbance in sand to mislead another, and she created the illusion of movement in shadows where there was none. Every setup was calculated to funnel them into kill zones she had predetermined. Her first shot was precise, silent with a suppressor. The enemy nearest her position fell without a sound. Panic rippled through the remaining men, but Maya was ready. From her elevated position, she moved fluidly, switching firing positions to avoid detection. Every shot counted, every movement was calculated, and every second she gained kept the enemy disoriented. 2 more insurgents advanced cautiously, unaware of the traps. Maya anticipated their path perfectly. She fired, the shots landing with surgical accuracy, each one taking down a target before they could react. The enemies began to realize they were being hunted by a ghost, precise, patient, and lethal. She pressed forward along the ridge, using natural cover to isolate individuals. Her tactics forced the enemy into predictable patterns. Rocks she had shifted earlier now became barricades, slowing their advance and exposing them to her calculated fire. Every move was psychological as well as physical. Fear and confusion worked as tools in her favor. Hours passed. Sweat and fatigue pressed heavily on her body, yet Maya's focus never wavered. She moved with the quiet rhythm of a predator, calculating trajectories, angles, and timing. Each insurgent that advanced fell to her careful precision. She knew that she could not afford mistakes. A single miscalculation would be fatal, not just for her, but potentially for the SEAL team below. By mid-morning, half of the 12 enemies had fallen. Maya paused briefly, scanning the remaining positions. They had begun coordinating, forming small groups to flank what they assumed was an unseen opponent. She exploited this immediately, repositioning herself along higher ground. Using the sun and shadows to obscure her movements, she became invisible, striking only when the opportunity was perfect. The final 6 were aware now. Their fear replaced the casual confidence of earlier. They moved cautiously, scanning the ridges, speaking in hurried whispers. Maya listened, predicted their actions, and struck at critical moments, eliminating 2 more with near-surgical accuracy. She used the terrain masterfully, drawing them into exposed areas where one precise shot could take down more than one target. Exhaustion gnawed at her muscles, but adrenaline and focus kept her alert. She checked her ammunition, repositioned her suppressor, and continued to methodically pick off the remaining 4. One attempted to advance along a narrow ledge, and Maya anticipated the move perfectly. She fired, the man losing balance and tumbling, incapacitated but alive, enough to stop the movement without alerting others to her exact position. The final confrontation came when 2 insurgents attempted a direct assault toward her position. coordinating a flanking maneuver. Maya stayed calm, analyzing their pattern. She lured them toward a previously prepared trap, a pile of loose rocks. As they stepped, the rocks shifted, destabilizing them. In that split second, Maya fired, neutralizing the threats with precision. The 12 enemies were down, eliminated or incapacitated, and the valley fell into an eerie silence. Maya sat, breathing heavily, her body covered in dust and sweat, but her mind clear. The mission was still active, the team below still at risk, but she had achieved something extraordinary. A one-woman strike that had removed a critical threat from the battlefield. She descended carefully to provide cover for the SEALs, guiding them toward safer positions. The men, exhausted and battered, looked at her in awe. Briggs, usually sarcastic and mocking, could only nod, speechless. I don't even have words, he admitted, his voice trembling. Maya checked the wounded and distributed ammunition, coordinating movement with meticulous precision. Her calm, tactical mind became the anchor for the team, restoring order amidst chaos. Every SEAL who had doubted her now realized the truth. Maya Torres was not just a medic or a recruit. She was a tactical genius and a warrior in her own right. By mid-afternoon, the team had stabilized. Reinforcements were inbound, alerted through the communication line Maya had secured during the night. Extraction points were marked, the wounded stabilized, and enemy positions neutralized. The SEALs began moving toward evacuation zones under her guidance. Each step, each decision was deliberate, ensuring no lives were lost unnecessarily. Later, as the team boarded helicopters to return to base, Briggs approached Maya quietly. I underestimated you, he said, shaking his head. You're incredible. Maya offered a brief nod, her expression calm but tired. We survived, she said simply. That's what matters. News of her actions spread quickly through the military channels. 12 enemy combatants neutralized, solo reconnaissance and combat engagement, securing communication lines, all achieved by one woman operating under extreme duress. Reports confirmed that her actions had prevented additional casualties and allowed the SEAL team to complete their mission successfully. That night, back at base, Maya sat alone in her bunk, cleaning her gear. Exhaustion pressed on her body, but satisfaction pressed on her mind. She had faced 12 enemies alone and prevailed. She had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and skill mattered more than doubt, mockery, or expectation. In that quiet moment, she allowed herself a brief thought. This was only the beginning. The SEALs who had once ridiculed her now looked at her with respect and awe. And while the mission was over, the legend of Maya Torres was just beginning to take shape. The helicopter blades chopped through the air as Maya Torres helped guide the last of her SEAL team into the evacuation zone. Dust swirled around her boots, clinging to sweat-drenched gear, and the cries of the wounded mingled with the roar of the rotors. Relief was palpable, but Maya's focus remained sharp. Every injured soldier had to be accounted for. Every precaution had to be maintained until they were safely aboard. Briggs, walking beside her, finally exhaled, a mix of exhaustion and awe on his face. I don't know how you did it, he muttered. 12 alone? I can't even imagine. Maya offered a small, tired smile. It wasn't about me. It was about keeping everyone alive. Her words, simple yet resolute, carried the weight of the past 24 hours. The firefights, the ambushes, the calculated risk, and the sheer determination to survive and protect her team. The SEALs, once skeptical and mocking, now moved with a quiet reverence toward her. Every glance held unspoken acknowledgement. She had proven herself beyond doubt. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, recovering in the medical bay, gave her a faint nod, a gesture that said more than words could. She had earned respect the way few in the SEALs ever had, through courage, action, and unwavering resolve. As they boarded the helicopters, Maya checked each injured man's vitals one last time. She helped them settle into the seats, ensuring that they were secure and stable for the flight back to base. Her training as a medic was indispensable, and her leadership under fire had transformed the team from near chaos into a cohesive, surviving unit. When the helicopters lifted off, Maya finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. The dust, blood, and adrenaline clung to her skin, and her muscles ached from relentless movement and combat. Yet, beneath the exhaustion, there was a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced 12 enemy combatants alone, neutralized the threat, and saved the lives of her teammates. Back at base, the debriefing was intense. Military officials and senior SEAL officers listened intently as each team member recounted the events of the mission. Every word from her fellow SEALs reinforced the truth. Maya Torres had acted decisively, strategically, and heroically. Her actions were studied with admiration, and her tactical brilliance was acknowledged as exceptional. Briggs, who had been a vocal skeptic from the beginning, spoke last. "I'll be honest," he said, voice steady but filled with emotion. "I didn't think you could do this. I underestimated you. But Maya, you saved our lives. You led when our leader couldn't. You neutralized the threats when we were frozen, and you did it all with precision and calm. I owe you my respect." Maya nodded quietly, the words settling over her like the first gentle rain after a storm. She had not sought recognition, yet she understood its value now, not for pride, but as a testament to what could be achieved when skill and courage were combined, regardless of expectation. The debriefing highlighted the critical moments of the mission. The ambush had been a carefully planned attack by a well-armed insurgent group. Maya's ability to anticipate enemy movements, set traps, and act decisively under extreme duress had prevented further casualties. Her quick thinking had secured the communication line, allowing command to coordinate extraction and air support. Without her, the mission could have ended in disaster. For the first time in her SEAL career, Maya felt the full weight of respect from her peers. Men who had mocked her for being the rookie or the medic now approached her, asking questions about her tactics, her decisions, and her strategy. She shared her insights generously, guiding them through her thought process without ego or condescension. Her focus was always on the mission, the team, and the lives they protected. In the days following the mission, Maya's story began to circulate through the ranks. Senior officers lauded her actions, and she received commendations for valor, courage, and leadership under fire. Her example became a case study for future SEAL operations, a lesson in precision, resilience, and tactical brilliance. Yet for Maya, recognition was secondary. What mattered most was that her team survived. Every life saved, every threat neutralized, every tactical decision executed successfully was a victory in itself. She reflected on the journey that had led her here. The rigorous training, the endless drills, the skepticism of her peers, and the moments when she had doubted herself. Each challenge had prepared her for this day, and each decision had reinforced her strength, courage, and resolve. Briggs, who had once mocked her, became one of her most vocal supporters. "You're not just a SEAL," he admitted quietly one evening. "You're something else. A force. I'll never doubt you again." Even Hayes, recovering fully, acknowledged her contribution. "Maya, you were the backbone of that mission," he said. "Your decisions saved lives. Your courage inspired the team, and your skill ensured success. You've earned every bit of respect and recognition we can give. You've proven yourself beyond any doubt." Maya listened, accepting the accolades with humility. She understood that the mission was only a part of her journey. Respect and recognition were milestones, not endpoints. Her focus remained on her purpose, protecting lives, executing missions with precision, and leading with courage. The SEALs who had once doubted her began to follow her example, learning from her calm under pressure, her tactical foresight, and her unwavering commitment to the team. Maya had not only earned their respect, she had transformed the culture around her, proving that leadership and excellence were defined by action, not gender, rank, or expectation. That night, as the base quieted and the stars stretched across the desert sky, Maya sat alone, cleaning her gear. Her body was weary, every muscle sore from relentless effort, but her mind was sharp. She reflected on the mission, the ambush, the confrontation with 12 enemies, and the coordination that had saved her team. Every challenge had tested her limits, but she had prevailed. In her solitude, she allowed herself a rare moment of pride. Not arrogance, but quiet satisfaction. She had faced overwhelming odds, navigated chaos with intelligence and precision, and emerged not only victorious, but respected by those who had once doubted her. The legend of Maya Torres had begun, not as a tale of bravado or exaggeration, but as a testament to courage, skill, and unwavering dedication. Her journey from rookie to respected SEAL leader was a story of perseverance, determination, and excellence under fire. Her team slept, unaware of the full scope of her actions, but the ripple of her heroism would be felt for years to come. Maya Torres had transformed from the underestimated rookie into a symbol of resilience and courage, a SEAL who had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, earning respect, admiration, and a place among the elite. As dawn broke anew, she prepared for the next mission, the next challenge, knowing that the true measure of a warrior was not in recognition alone, but in the courage to face danger, the wisdom to act decisively, and the heart to protect those who could not protect themselves. And Maya Torres was ready. The base was quiet now, the adrenaline of the past days giving way to an uneasy calm. Maya Torres sat on a bench outside the barracks, her uniform dusty, her boots scuffed, her hands still trembling slightly from exhaustion. Yet beneath the fatigue, there was a profound sense of purpose. The mission was complete, the team safe, and the threat neutralized. 12 enemy combatants had been eliminated by her alone, but more importantly, every SEAL had returned alive. The events replayed in her mind like a vivid, unrelenting montage. The ambush in the valley, Lieutenant Commander Hayes being wounded, the chaos of bullets and smoke, the split-second decisions that had saved lives, and the grueling solo confrontation with the 12 enemies. Each moment had tested her body, her mind, and her courage, but it had also revealed something fundamental about herself: resilience, ingenuity, and the capacity to lead under unimaginable pressure. She thought about Briggs, who had mocked her at the start of training, and how his skepticism had transformed into awe. She remembered the wide-eyed expressions of the other SEALs as she coordinated the wounded, neutralized threats, and guided them to safety. Respect had been earned, not given, and Maya felt the weight and the honor of it. She had proven that skill, courage, and determination mattered more than prejudice, doubt, or expectation. Maya reflected on her own journey to this point. The grueling SEAL training, the endless drills, the moments when self-doubt threatened to overwhelm her, all of it had prepared her for this mission. Every failure, every challenge, every moment of ridicule had forged a resilience that now defined her. She had learned to trust her instincts, to rely on her training, and to remain calm when chaos threatened to consume her. The SEAL community had begun to see her differently. The whispers of doubt and mockery had faded, replaced by stories of her valor, her precision, and her leadership. Senior officers now consulted her on tactical operations. Younger recruits looked to her for guidance, and even seasoned SEALs sought her insight on strategy and decision-making. Maya's reputation had become more than a tale of bravery. It had become a standard by which courage and leadership were measured. Her thoughts drifted to the soldiers she had saved. Each of them carried the memory of her calm in the storm, her precision in combat, and her unwavering commitment to their survival. She had not sought recognition, yet in every grateful glance, every nod of respect, she saw the true measure of success. Leadership, she realized, was not about rank or accolades. It was about responsibility, courage, and the unwavering commitment to protect those who relied on you. Maya also reflected on the 12 enemies she had faced alone. The sheer magnitude of the confrontation had forced her to innovate, to improvise, and to remain entirely focused. Every step had been calculated, every shot deliberate, and every decision critical. It had been a test of skill, strategy, and nerve, and she had passed. In that moment, she had not only survived, but had transformed a deadly scenario into a triumph that ensured the survival of her team. The debriefing sessions had been both humbling and affirming. Military officials and SEAL officers praised her tactical genius, calm under fire, and ability to lead in the absence of command. Each report confirmed what she already knew. She had acted decisively, prevented further casualties, and saved lives. Yet, amidst the commendations and recognition, Maya remained grounded. She understood that courage was not a singular act, but a series of decisions, each shaped by training, instinct, and resolve. That night, as the base settled into silence, Maya considered the legacy of her actions. She had transformed perception through deeds, proving that excellence in the field was defined not by gender or rank, but by action, skill, and courage. She had shown that leadership could emerge in the most unexpected moments, and that one person, acting decisively and intelligently, could change the course of events. Her team, now resting and recovering, had been forever changed as well. The younger SEALs who had once doubted her were inspired by her example. The seasoned veterans who had underestimated her now saw her as a peer, an equal, and a leader. And Briggs, once mocking and arrogant, had become one of her most vocal supporters, acknowledging that her actions had saved lives and set a new standard for courage and tactical expertise. Maya thought of the long nights, the grueling missions, and the relentless pursuit of excellence that had brought her here. Each challenge she had faced, each obstacle she had overcome, had built the foundation for this defining moment. Her journey had been one of perseverance, skill, and determination, and it had culminated in a mission that would be remembered, studied, and revered within the SEAL community. The impact of her actions extended beyond immediate survival. Her bravery and tactical mastery had become a blueprint for future operations. Lessons were drawn from her decision-making, her ability to adapt under pressure, and her capacity to lead in the absence of command. Maya's story was no longer just her own. It was a legacy for the SEALs who would follow, a testament to what could be achieved through courage, intelligence, and resilience. As dawn broke over the base the following morning, Maya rose early, moving through the barracks with quiet determination. She checked her gear, reviewed mission notes, and mentally prepared for whatever came next. There was no rest for those who had been forged in fire. Every day brought new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities to prove oneself. Yet in the quiet moments, she allowed herself to reflect on what she had accomplished. She had faced 12 enemies alone, coordinated a team under fire, secured communications, and ensured the survival of her comrades. She had transformed doubt into respect, ridicule into recognition, and adversity into triumph. And in doing so, she had cemented her place not just as a SEAL, but as a legend in her own right. Maya Torres had entered the SEALs as a rookie, underestimated and mocked. But she had emerged as a leader, a tactician, and a symbol of courage. Her story would be told and retold, inspiring others to push beyond limits, to act decisively under pressure, and to lead with intelligence, courage, and integrity. She had proven that true strength lay not in reputation, but in action, and that the measure of a warrior was found in the willingness to face impossible odds and prevail. As she gazed across the desert horizon, the sun rising in a blaze of gold and orange, Maya felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. She had survived, she had led, and she had changed the perception of those around her. Her journey was far from over, but the legend she had forged in fire would endure. Maya Torres stood tall, gear slung across her shoulders, eyes steady and focused. She had faced death, chaos, and overwhelming odds, and emerged victorious. The seals she had served with would remember her, respect her, and follow her lead. And she, in turn, would continue to lead, to protect, and to inspire, carrying forward the lessons, the courage, and the unyielding spirit that had defined her journey. The story of Maya Torres, the rookie who faced 12 enemies alone, the woman who earned respect through courage and skill, the seal who transformed doubt into admiration, had reached its beginning, but its legacy would endure forever.